Outwitting the Devil, Part 3. Before the 7 principles, there's something you should know about the man giving them. Napoleon Hill built his entire career on a story that as a young reporter, he was sent to interview Andrew Carnegie, then the richest man alive, and that Carnegie commissioned him on the spot to spend 20 years studying the most successful people in America and distilling what made them work. It's a perfect origin story. It may also not have happened. Researchers and journalists who've gone looking for hard evidence of that commission have struggled to find much. And when people started examining the rest of the biography, the businesses, the credentials, the fortunes supposedly made and lost, a fairly consistent pattern emerged. Hill was, at the very least, an unreliable narrator of his own life. Some of it looks invented. So why are we still here? Because this is the genuinely interesting problem. The man who wrote one of the most influential books on self-discipline of the 20th century may have been terrible at it, and you have two options. You can throw the whole thing out, or you can do the exact thing the book spends 300 pages telling you to do. Judge the idea on its own terms, not on the reputation of whoever handed it to you, which cuts both ways, incidentally. It's the same reason you shouldn't accept an idea just because a successful person said it. Judge that way, on the mechanics rather than the man. Most of what follows holds up, and some of it doesn't. I'll tell you which is which. Here's where the first two parts leave us. You know what drifting looks like. You know how repetition hardens it into something that feels like personality, and knowing that changes nothing. Understanding a trap is not the same as standing outside it. Awareness only turns the lights on. You still have to walk. Hill's answer is 7 principles, not 7 tips. 7 disciplines. And the reason there are 7 is that each one closes a different exit. Because you can escape drifting in one direction and walk straight back into it from another. Principle 1. Definiteness of purpose. Imagine handing someone a ship, engine, fuel, charts, a capable crew, everything required to travel, except somewhere to go. That ship can move very fast and arrive nowhere. Hill thought most people live exactly like this. Intelligence, energy, opportunity, talent, and nothing organizing any of it. So life becomes reactive. Whatever's urgent takes the attention. Whatever's pleasant gets repeated. Whatever's frightening gets avoided. And whatever the people around you value slowly becomes what you value. But this is deeper than having goals. A goal is, I want to earn more. A definite purpose asks the questions underneath it. Why? For what kind of life? Through what kind of work? What am I willing to give up for it? What am I not willing to give up? Who would I have to become? Because clarity doesn't only tell you what to chase, it tells you what to refuse. And that half is worth more. Every serious purpose creates boundaries without being asked. If your work needs deep concentration, being constantly available becomes incompatible with it. If you want financial independence, unexamined spending becomes incompatible with it. Purpose turns decisions into filters. You stop asking what you feel like doing. You start asking whether this serves the direction you chose. But knowing where you're going doesn't mean you'll feel like walking. Principle 2, mastery over self. There are 2 versions of you sitting at the same table. One is thinking about next year. The other cares only about tonight. One wants strength. The other wants comfort. One wants the work finished. The other wants one more episode. Both of them are you. That's the part people miss. Self-mastery isn't killing off the second one. It's deciding which one gets the deciding vote. So it was never about eliminating pleasure. It's about restoring hierarchy. Being able to enjoy something without needing it. Resting without collapsing into it. Feeling anger without acting from it. Feeling fear without letting it choose the direction. Think of emotion as a passenger in a car. The passenger is allowed to talk. Sometimes the passenger knows something you don't. Fear can warn you. Anger can tell you a boundary was crossed. Desire can show you what you actually want. The problem is only ever when the passenger takes the wheel. Self-mastery doesn't throw the passenger out. It puts the driver back. And the way you train it is smaller than people expect. You want to check your phone. Wait. You want to abandon the difficult work. 5 more minutes. You want to fire back a reply. Pause. Each one looks trivial. But inside that pause, you're teaching yourself a single sentence. An impulse is not an instruction. Do that enough times and something shifts. The urge still arrives. It just stops arriving with authority. Principle 3, learning from adversity. Most people ask the wrong question when something collapses. Why did this happen to me? Hill wants a different one. What does this tell me? That sounds like a motivational reframe. It isn't. The first question puts you underneath the event. The second puts you in conversation with it. Now, Hill's actual phrase is that every adversity carries the seed of an equivalent advantage. And that's where I'd push back on him. Because it isn't true. Some things that happen to people are simply losses. There is no hidden gift inside a bereavement. Telling someone there is can be cruel. But there's a smaller, harder version of the principle that survives. Even when you couldn't control the event, you can still take information out of it. You fall while climbing. You can sit on the ground and curse the mountain. Or you can look at the rock. Was your footing wrong? Did the equipment fail? Were you moving too fast for the conditions? The fall becomes data. A failed business exposes weak judgment. A broken relationship exposes poor boundaries. A missed opportunity exposes hesitation. Burnout exposes a system that was never sustainable. Failure only becomes expensive when you pay the price. And decline the lesson. So never waste pain. Take something out of it. A principle, a boundary, a rule you didn't have last year. Principle 4, control your environmental influences. Imagine planting a good seed in poisoned soil, then standing over it every morning shouting, grow. That's most self-improvement. People try to change themselves while carefully preserving everything that produces the old behavior. We covered how environment shapes you in part 2. What matters here is why Hill puts it on a list of disciplines at all. Because look at what the other 6 require. Purpose requires clarity you might not have yet. Self-mastery requires strength in the exact moment you're weakest. Learning from adversity requires you to be calm about something painful. Time requires you to wait years. Every one of those asks something of you in the moment. Environment doesn't. You can change your environment on a day when you have no discipline whatsoever. Delete the app on a Sunday and it's still gone on Thursday, when you're tired and it's late, and you would absolutely have opened it. That's the whole point. Environment is the only principle that keeps working while you're not. It's discipline you install once and collect on repeatedly. So audit it honestly. What behavior does my environment reward? What does it make difficult? Who sharpens my thinking? Who reliably pulls me toward distraction, resentment, or self-doubt? Then change what you can actually change, which isn't everything. Most people can't choose their family, their workplace, or their city, but almost nobody has changed the things they could. Principle 5, time. Time looks like an odd thing to call a principle. You can't control it. You can't save Tuesday and spend it in March. Hill includes it because time is what gives repetition its power. It's the multiplier on the rhythm we talked about last episode. And it's completely indifferent. Plant discipline, give it time, discipline becomes ordinary. Plant avoidance, give it time, avoidance becomes ordinary. Plant knowledge, give it years, it compounds. Plant resentment, give it years, and it becomes a personality. People wildly overestimate what one intense day can do, and underestimate what an unremarkable behavior repeated for 3 years becomes. 2 roads separating by a single degree look identical at the start. Walk far enough and they end in different countries. So the question isn't whether you're using your time. Everyone is. The question is what it's currently multiplying, which changes what patience actually means. Patience isn't waiting. It's continuing a correct process long enough for the accumulation to become visible. And most people quit somewhere in the gap between doing the right thing and being able to see that it worked. Principle 6, harmony. Harmony is the easiest one to misread. It doesn't mean your life should feel peaceful. It means alignment. Your purpose, your habits, your relationships, your environment, and your actual behavior should increasingly pull the same way. 6 people pushing a car, 3 push forward, 2 push back, 1 pushes sideways. Everyone is exhausted. The car barely moves. That's internal conflict. And it's why people can work incredibly hard and still feel like they're going nowhere. You say health matters and sleep 4 hours. You say freedom matters and spend everything you earn. You say the work matters and give your best hours to entertainment. You say you want peace and consume things engineered to make you angry. The problem isn't a shortage of desire. It's that your forces are canceling each other out. So Harmony asks one blunt question. Does the way I live support what I claim to value? That's an uncomfortable audit because values aren't demonstrated by what you say. They're revealed by what repeatedly gets your hours. Make your calendar support your priorities. Make your environment support your habits. Make your habits support your purpose. When those point the same way, you stop spending most of your energy fighting yourself. And most people have far more energy than they think. It's just committed to a war nobody's winning. Principle 7. Caution. Purpose without caution becomes obsession. Confidence without caution becomes arrogance. Speed without caution just gets you down the wrong road faster. Hill's last principle is judgment, and it is not fear. A frightened person refuses to cross any bridge. A reckless person runs across without looking. A cautious person checks it, then crosses. The crossing still happens. That's the distinction the whole principle rests on. So before a serious decision, what do I actually know? What am I assuming? What could I be missing? Am I acting from purpose or from mood? What's the cost if I'm wrong? Is this genuinely good or just urgent? And this catches a form of drifting almost nobody recognizes in themselves. Because drifting isn't always passive. Some people drift by chasing everything. New idea, new business, new strategy, new trend. Constantly moving, never staying anywhere long enough for time to compound. That person looks like the opposite of a drifter. They're busy, they're ambitious, they start things, but they're answering the same question the drifter answers. Which road looks best right now? Caution buys you the moment of examination. Not so long that you're paralyzed. Long enough that the decision belongs to you and not to the mood you happen to be in. Now, the obvious objection. All 7 of these assume you have room to maneuver. Time to think. Some control over your surroundings. Enough stability to plan in years. And a lot of people don't. If you're working 2 jobs or caring for someone who's ill or dealing with something that takes everything you have just to stay level, a philosophy built on definiteness of purpose can sound like it was written by someone who has never had a genuinely bad year. Hill is weakest here. He consistently pushes personal responsibility further than the evidence supports. Circumstances matter. Health matters. Money matters. Who you were born to matters. So take the honest version instead. These principles don't decide your outcome. They decide what you do with the room you actually have. And the less room you have, the more expensive it is to waste any of it, which is an argument for this, not against it. Now notice what Hill has actually built. This isn't 7 separate ideas, it's a chain. Purpose chooses the road. Self-mastery keeps you on it when you don't feel like it. Adversity teaches you something every time you fall. Environment decides how hard the walking is. Time turns repeated steps into momentum. Harmony stops your own forces canceling out. And caution stops you marching confidently off a cliff. Remove anyone, and the rest get weaker. Purpose without self-mastery is a plan you never execute. Self-mastery without purpose is discipline pointed at nothing. Both of those without caution is someone marching brilliantly in the wrong direction. And all of it without environment is a fight you have to win again every single day. So if you want to start somewhere this week, start with 1 page. Write down what you're actually trying to build. Name the 2 impulses that most reliably pull you off it. Pick one thing in your surroundings that makes those impulses easy, and change it today. Choose 2 actions you're willing to repeat for a year. Only 2. Find one contradiction between what you say matters and where your hours actually go, and close it. That's not the whole system, but it's the part you can do before this week ends. So we end where the series started. You don't usually lose control of your life in one catastrophic decision. You lose it quietly. One unexamined habit. One fear obeyed until obeying it became automatic. 1 year spent waiting to feel ready. One environment you never questioned. One compromise repeated until it stopped looking like a compromise. And none of these 7 principles make you immune to that. You'll still be afraid of things. You'll still make bad calls. You'll still lose your direction, probably more than once. Self-mastery was never about never drifting. It's about noticing the current sooner, which might be the real meaning of the conversation Hill invented. Because the devil in that book never claims he can destroy anyone. He doesn't need to. He only needs you to stop choosing. Let fear choose. Let impulse choose. Let other people choose. Let habit choose. Let circumstances choose. And then call whatever comes out of it fate. So outwitting him isn't about becoming fearless or perfect or in control of what happens to you. It's much quieter than that. It's deciding that although you'll never control the wind, you'll keep your hands on the sails, because the opposite of drifting was never success. It isn't wealth, it isn't achievement, it's authorship. Looking at the direction of your life and recognizing that imperfectly, unevenly, and starting from wherever you actually are, you're the one holding the pen.